Mambo Team Africa Worldwide. Habari ya Asabui, Habari ya Mchana, Habari ya Jioni. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. As promised, I'm back to discuss my reflections on my time spent in East Africa. I've spent most of 2022 mostly in Tanzania. I spent the weekend in Nairobi, and I divided my time. I spent the first month in Dar es Salaam. I spent the second month in um, Arusha, and then I came back to Dar es Salaam and did a month, and I had some extra weeks here and there. So it was like 3.5, almost 4 months. Um, and I was all over Dar es Salaam. I was started off in an area called Kingamboni. Uh, I was doing Airbnbs at first, so just moving around. You might like a place, but even if you like it, somebody else has a book, so you have to move. So I stayed in a high-rise apartment in Posta, and then I stayed in a couple apartments in Masaki, and I stayed in a house in Masaki. And actually made friends with the host of that particular one. Really good people. Um, and so, and then eventually I moved to an area called Goba and got, rented a place. When I was in Arusha, I stayed in a hotel for about a week, but I also had an apartment there for a month. I had like a luxury apartment. That was nice. So I think, I can't say I'm an expert on Dar es Salaam, but I had a worthwhile experience. I think I spent enough time there that I can speak on what I think about it, and I compare it to Kenya a lot because that was my only African experience before moving to Tanzania. I've been to Ethiopia, just passing back and forth through the airport a couple of times, and because of that, I have to go back and spend at least a weekend in Addis Ababa, so I can legitimately say that I had the Ethiopian experience. There are other places I want to go. I want to go to Gabon. I want to go to Cameroon. I want to go to um, Republic of Congo, because those are, according to my DNA results, those are my ancestral homelands as far as my haplogroups are concerned. But also have a lot of Nigerian blood, so I like to go to Nigeria. Definitely want to go to Senegal. Beautiful people, delicious food. Um, I wish I could go to all the countries actually. Ghana, Egypt, South Africa, Namibia, all of them. But I have to prioritize because I'm still a working man. I work full time, and I have to beg these people for a day off. I have to ask for a day off a whole month in advance. It's crazy. I want to figure out how to break free of this shackle eventually, but at the same time, it's a blessing because I'm able to work remote, which allows me to work anywhere in the world. And so, a lot of people don't have that. So I'm not gonna act like I'm ungrateful. Um, but what I really want to talk about is Umoja. Anybody who is familiar with the African American holiday called Kwanzaa, we know that word Umoja. We learned that when we were very young. Umoja means unity. And man, when I'm in Africa, I don't see as much unity as I would like to see. Um, the word we always say fam here, and they say Ndugu. Some people think Ndugu means brother, but actually Ndugu can be a brother or a sister. So it's really family. Some people might say family is familia, but it's obvious that that is just a Kiswahili pronunciation of the English word family. Family is in Ndugu. Um, or family member is in Ndugu. Uh, and I don't know. didn't always feel Karibu because and it's not people's fault. It's due to the economic climate. You know, the economy of Tanzania is one of the lowest on the continent, one of the lowest in the world. So when desperate people do desperate things, and when your money's not right, you know, you're going to bend your morals a little bit. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. I see it in the States. I see it in my American neighborhood because I live in the most affluent neighborhood. I live in a working class neighborhood. Um, so we we tend to think about survival. We think about living from hand to mouth, and we spend what we get as soon as we get it. I mean, that's on the continent and in the diaspora. We really don't understand um, certain ideas such as um, saving emergency money for a rainy day, saving so you can invest and let your money work for you. We don't really understand business. A lot of us, we operate businesses, but that doesn't mean that we understand them because most of us, our businesses either fail or we're still struggling financially, even though we own a business. We don't understand business acumen. It's like you have to think like when Mzungu has a business and he gives you something for free. Is he really giving you something for free, or is that marketing? And that's what we got to think. We have to think long term. We have to think about building relationships with our customers. So if we know that some customers use credit cards or debit cards, we need to prepare for that, so we can get all the money instead of, you know, only wanting cash, and um, then you turn it down the card money, or overall that's less money. You worried about, you know, with the credit card money, it's going to take a couple days to hit your account. But if you manage your money, you won't be as desperate for money today. Also, if you're going to operate, a cash only business, the first thing you should be doing every morning is going to the banking so you can get some shillingis so you will have change to provide to your customers, things like that. You want to be friendly, you know. You want to have good conversation. You want to smile. You want people to feel karibu. You want people to feel welcome. You know, um, so that they'll want to spend money again. That's how you boost the economy, and that's how we empower each other. And so another thing that a lot of people um, really don't understand affects economy is language. Um, Kiswahili is the most spoken indigenous language on the continent. It's spoken by roughly 150 million people. It's East African language, um, and I know it would be very hard to get West Africans to adopt Kiswahili as a lingua franca, but in my opinion, that's better than speaking to one another in Kizungu, English, is better than speaking to each other in Francais or French. It's better than speaking to each other in Portuguese. So, you're speaking the colonizer's language. You're not rejecting that. You're not putting it out of your schools. You welcome that. In fact, when people, the better someone's uh, knowledge of the colonizer language, we tend to think that the more intelligent that person is. So, what's wrong with adopting Kiswahili as the um, lingua franca or the business language of the continent? That doesn't mean that you have to get rid of your language. If you speak Hausa, you speak Igbo, you know, you speak whatever. I mean, right now you're speaking English and you're speaking your language. You know, you might speak, you might be Muslim, you might speak Arabic, and you speak Fong. You know, so the Arabic didn't keep you from learning how to speak the Fong. So why would Kiswahili keep you from speaking your native language? Um, Most Africans, unlike African Americans, speak several languages, and I applaud that. I salute that. But um, but at the same time, a lot of us still can't speak to one another because the language that we speak the most is usually a colonizer language. And one thing I have to say, um, and and I wouldn't admit this for a very long time, but I will admit it now. Arabic is also a colonizer language. And some people might say, well, Arabic used to be an African language. Well, it used to be an African language. The majority of the people who control the Arab community now are pale skinned Arabs. I won't call them Caucasians or Europeans, but they're not um, they're not African like you and me. So they are people who came into the continent and oppressed people, and and right now they still have more power in Africa than the African. There's some blocks in Dar es Salaam where Africans and Indians own all the dukas, I mean the shops. One day, I said, let me leave this store. I didn't know it wasn't owned by Africans. I went to the next store. It wasn't owned by Africans. I went to the next store. It wasn't owned by Africans. I went to the next store. It wasn't owned by Africans. That is ridiculous. I walked 3 blocks in downtown Dar es Salaam in this particular section where I was using a shared office space, and the only African duka I found was a bakery. And then when I went in the bakery to buy a small cake, of course the sister told me she didn't have change to force me to buy 2 cakes. You know, so I mean we can straighten all of this out. Forgive the camera shaking. We can straighten all this out by having umoja, having unity, and one way we get unity is by adopting a universal language for all Africans on the continent and the diaspora. And like I said, I know this is going to be a hard sell for a lot of West Africans. It'll probably be a hard sell for a lot of our African brothers who are in North Africa, because yes, a lot of those people in North Africa are still African. You might not always see them, on in the movies, but they're there. A lot of the original inhabitants are still there. And even some of the people who look lighter, I mean, not to practice shadism, a lot of them still have that African blood in their system because you know how warfare goes. They will kill the men and then mate with the women. So a lot of those people there are their maternal line is African. But so Kiswahili is one language that, even though I've had some difficulty understanding it, hearing it well, I've learned how to speak many words, and I think if I would have started learning Kiswahili when I was much younger, I believe that I would be fluent now. When I was in high school, I studied French for a year. And then when I got out of college, I lived in Washington, D.C., and it was a lot of Central American people there. And and Spanish is pretty much the unofficial second language of the United States. So I thought it'd be a good idea to learn Spanish. Plus, I believed in the whole Black and Brown coalition thing, which does not exist. You know, we're always trying to link up with people who aren't really trying to link up with us. I mean, I'm not dissing my Afro Latinos, but you know what I mean. The white looking Latinos, they're not really trying to be down with a Pan African program or a Black and Brown program. So um, I said this before. I think I titled one of my videos this: African Americans need to stop um, making the learning of Espanol a priority and learn Kiswahili. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with learning a European language after you know an African language. Like I say, if you dead set on not learning Kiswahili, then um, pick an African language of your choice. But for an African person to only know a colonizer language, that's bad. That's bad. That's doing something to us psychologically, and that's why we don't know who we are. That's why we're claiming everything under the sun but being African because we don't even remember the tone. But I mean, it's evident that is there are similarities like I said once before, you know, if you take the month December, um, if one way to say that in Kiswahili is Kuminambili, which means Mwezi wa Kuminambili, which means the month of 12. However, most people, skip all that and they just say December, but they pronounce December. And most African Americans, we drop the R's off of words. Like a lot of us who become educated, we pronounce the R's December. But if especially if you have Southern roots, before you got into corporate America or before you started attending college or prestigious high school, you said December too. It's natural for us to pronounce words like that. Um, So one sale I would try to make is that if we can't get the entire continent to speak Kiswahili, then let's let it be the language of the diaspora. Might not speak it exactly like a Tanzanian or somebody from Zanzibar, which is a self-autonomous portion of Tanzania. It used to be his own country, but we might not speak it like someone from Kenya. We might not speak it like someone from Eastern Congo, but we can have our own flavor. All languages have their own flavor. By people who speak in different dialects. I mean, when you look at English, everybody doesn't speak English the way I'm speaking it now. You have British English, standard American English, even in America, Northerners and Southerners talk different. People who live on the East Coast and the West Coast speak differently. People in South Africa, Australia, the Caribbean, everybody speaks, pronounces certain English words differently. So if we in the diaspora learn Kiswahili and become fluent at it, that's good enough. We don't necessarily have to develop an East African accent or pronounce our words exactly the way our brothers and sisters do over there. What matters is whether or not they understand what we're saying and we understand what they're saying. That's what really matters. And for all of you, negative people that always say you don't have anything to do with Africa because the Africans sold you and this and that. Well, if you believe that narrative, which, is a lot more complex than that, but if you believe that taka, that trash, um, then that means that you shouldn't have any problem learning a East African language because if you were an outsider who was sold by West and Central Africans, then that means you had to come from East Africa. And since we want to believe that you know none of the enslaved Africans in the Western Hemisphere came from East Africa, then those aren't the people who enslaved us. But we know when we go over to certain areas like Kenya, you know, there are a lot of people who look like us. So, um, so if you were an outsider in West Africa who got kidnapped, then that would mean you come from East Africa. And it would also mean that the East Africans weren't the people who sold you. I don't believe that narrative. I believe it was much more complicated. I believe everybody was selling everybody. Um, I believe that we have DNA from the slave catchers as well as the victims of the trade. But for those of you who have that negative thing about, oh, I don't want anything to do with that because of you thinking that the Africans sold you, well, then that was the West and Central Africans because you were East African. DNA test is not going to say that, but DNA tests only go back so far anyway. So that's my sale. I think that's a language that if I am from the United States, I should be able to talk to a brother in Paris using Kiswahili. Um, a brother in the UK should be able to speak to somebody in Brazil using Kiswahili. Somebody from Jamaica should be able to speak to a brother or sister in Cote d'Ivoire in Kiswahili. So that's my sale. I just really, really want to promote us picking up Kiswahili. Another reason why we should pick up Kiswahili because there are a lot of resources. There are apps for learning Kiswahili. They need improvement, and eventually I plan to come out with my own app. But there are apps, there are books, there are movies, there are news stations such as BBC Swahili and VOA Swahili that you can watch on YouTube. There are a lot of resources for learning Kiswahili, so that's another reason why you should do it. So with that being said, uh, what will be our Kiswahili word sentence for today? Um, um, I'm going to say we will learn to speak Kiswahili. So we will would be tuta. Tu stands for we and ta will. Tuta. Um, and then learn is jifunza. Jifunza. So we will say tuta jifunza. We will learn tuta jifunza. And then to speak is tu is cool and sema is speak. So kusema is to speak. So we will say uh, uh, tuta tuta jifunza kusema Kiswahili. We will learn to speak Kiswahili. Tuta jifunza kusema Kiswahili. Kutajifunza kusema Kiswahili. We will learn to speak Kiswahili. Well, as always, asante sana for watching and kwaheri kwa sasa.